Come on, wait for the. Just, we're just waiting for the news to finish.
It's okay.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, all, and welcome. Before I speak to Alan, just like to say thank you very much for everybody who's been following us for the last 12 months. It's been very good. We have had 63, 63, 63 people. It looks like it. 63,000 people. And also the podcast is, I think it's number two at the moment. We were one, so thank you so much for helping us out. Thank you to everybody and all the guests and everything. Anyway, I'm so excited because my book comes out today. It's out, so make sure that you get it. It's only £14.99. Make sure you get it, and it's a good read. Well, I'm bound to say it because I was the one who wrote it with some help. So thank you for that. And anyway, be a nice Christmas present for your loved one or for somebody. Anyway, we're going to go over to Alan. Alan, thank you very much for joining me.
It's okay.
Now, I want to get into your what called your spiritual self. I know you're not a spiritual man himself because when you were in your band days with Marmalade, you were you lot were a right rebel, weren't you?
I was what? Sorry, Steve.
A right pain in the backside, weren't you?
I think I was different to the rest of the band. I thought differently, but then I was English. They were all Scottish. I mean, they did call me names that I will not repeat on the radio, but it was all in good fun. It was just, there was a comradeship, irrespective of the fact that they don't have a high regard for the English.
No, they don't. No, no, not Scottish. No. And the trouble is, though, when they had a drink, sometimes you did have a drink, didn't you?
I could never keep up with them. I mean, if there are any Scottish people listening, I don't need to tell you that they have what's the word? They, they seem to be able to drink vast quantities of alcohol with minimal effect. I could never keep up with them. I don't think I ever saw the guys drunk, actually,
Mm.
irrespective of it, even if they drunk a bottle of whiskey. I mean, I couldn't do anything like that. So I wasn't a big drink. I drink a little bit more now, I think, but not. I wouldn't say I was a heavy drinker, but I mean, the band were that they weren't into drugs. They just liked to drink whiskey
Mm.
primarily. I mean, strange enough, the drink I really got into lately is Japanese whiskey, which is really mellow. It's like
Is it Psycho? Psycho? Psycho?
a Santori I drink, which is nice, and
All right. Okay. Okay.
it's about 35 quid a bottle. It's just like very good quality Scotch. It's like whiskey, but smoother for me. I just drink it with water or ice, maybe.
Okay. So I what I did was I asked everybody to send some questions in because I was running out of them, and so they sent some questions in for you.
Okay,
But
fire
what
away.
what we want to do is be more nosy, right? So you are not allowed to hide anything away, all right? So you've got
Okay,
to tell us your deepest secrets if it comes out. Right, here we go. I'll start with this one, and I hope you're ready for it. Paul wants to know, hi Alan, I've been following you actually for quite a while now on this radio program and podcast. I'd like to ask you one question. When you used to have parties, how many women did you have a night? Was it one or two, three or four, or whatever?
Oh God. I think
You
I can
declined.
remember. I can remember one night waking up with there was three girls in my bed, but it was a particularly big bed. I think that was in Spain somewhere. Um, I mean, normally was that what's that I was saying? Once a king, always a king, but once a night is enough. Well, if you've been traveling and gigging, I can't say you were into gymnastics with ladies. You are normally knackered, so it was in those days pretty much wham bam, thank you, ma'am, and then zonko.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but when I was, it's obviously as a young guy, and you got access to so many women. I mean, they used to knock on your door day and night. So
Okay,
it,
we'll pass on that one.
for a healthy young man, I just did what I guess rock guys do. Really, I mean,
Yeah,
I never
yeah.
really counted. It wasn't a game. It was, but there was certainly, yeah. We got to meet a lot of women. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, okay, okay. I'm sorry, folks, but we won't get into the detail. Right, okay. Caroline wants to know, I, Alan, when you kind of like was making your money when you were in your band, did you ever
Yeah.
flash your money around?
Um, when at the peak of Marmalade's success, I was the only single guy. They were all married, and I used to when we weren't gigging. Yeah, I'd go to clubs. I was, if you like, the socialite. I was always out. So, and I was into cars. I had a E-type Jag. So, the Marmalade, the rest of the guys were probably much more canny with their money. Me, I just partied, went out with loads of girls, went to clubs. Um, so I enjoyed we were on a very good. We had a basic retainer, and then we got bonuses. So I lived a very enviable lifestyle for a young guy, I guess. In answer to the question, um, um, I wouldn't say I wasted it. I just spent it on drink and women.
Right, okay. Right, let's move on. We don't want to hear his stuff. Um, um, might be later. Rachel wants to know, hi, Alan. I am 65. I remember you lot when you came number one. What's it like? What was it like back then when you were number one? The music these days is full of rubbish, but your band lives on. Well done.
Yeah, I don't want to feel like a grumpy old man, Although I say
You
I,
never
I'm going,
grumpy.
I'm going that way because the frustration of dealing with modern life does make you angry. But I can have great empathy for that comment. For me, there's nothing about modern music that I wouldn't. I mean, for me, someone like who can you say is current? I mean, Adele, yeah, it'd be like watching paint dry. It doesn't. Amy Winehouse, whole different ball game. But of course, sadly, she's gone. The current big brute, Cold Sore. I mean, Coldplay. For me,
Cool.
there's none
Never
of
heard
them
of
like
them.
paint dry. I'm really into the old bands because there's been nothing really to compete. Even now, if you listen to, you go really right back and listen to Jerry Lee Lewis or Chuck Berry or all of these great, or Presley, or there's just nothing remotely close to the talent and charisma that these artists had. So I guess I'm stuck in the 60s and 70s, and I make no apology for that. For me, it was a golden era for unbelievably talented
I
musicians.
love, I love, I love it. I love the 60s, 70s.
yeah, the
Yeah,
Motown, you know, and I was lucky enough to meet so many of the people that I admired or idolized, and
well, we're
there's
going to come on to that in a minute. We're going to come on to that one in a minute.
but
Um,
modern music, no, there's nothing about modern music that does it for me, sadly.
okay. Well, we got somebody here called Roger, and he says, "Hi, Alan. What do you think about today's modern music? And if you wanted to change it, what would you do?"
Oh, it's a very good question.
Question.
I think where modern music has gone wrong, first of all, you had a natural progression. You had um, Stockhack and Walknam, PWL, who started to change the way music. Somebody said they did to music what MFI did to furniture, and it's not a bad assimilation. And then you had things like X Factor and all of these, which put the nail in the coffin of it all. And I think the big problem with modern music, it's based so much around social media, and there's no development of artists. You don't have, in the old days, the record labels had, you were with people that nurtured and helped you, and it was, the music grew organically, whereas now it's manufactured in a way that it's very bland and samey. But that's just my observation for it. If you, as an example, if you look at the older groups, let's just go the Beatles, who were different to the Stones, who were different to the who were different to the Trogs, who were different to Marmalade. They were all different. They all had their own look, their own sound, everything. Now it's just rubber mold, like jelly molded. It all sounds the same to me. I can't listen to Radio 1. It's just all, or even Radio 2's going that way.
Yeah,
And I think the youngsters of today are being shortchanged because modern music to me has just lost the plot. I don't know how we've managed to lose that phenomenal creative skills that we had in music in the 60s and 70s, when we dominated the world with our music for a small country, and it's
yeah.
all gone now.
Oh no, shame, isn't it? Everything's gone over the USA, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I mean, even America, it's when if ever I go to the States, which is still the hub, but there's no, I mean, to try and generate capital as a working with streaming where there's minimal returns. I mean, we're making more money from our old back catalogue than we ever did, and it's 50 years old. I don't think modern music could be here next week, never mind 50 years' time. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I like your opinions. Graham wants to know: are you still, since your past days, are you still making music today? And if
Yeah.
so, what kind?
Yes, my great mate I work with is Steve Glenn. Now, for those that are older, they remember Mickey Most. Well, Mickey Most' right hand man was Steve Glenn with Rack Records, and a lot of he worked with Hot Chocolate, Bucks,
Yeah,
all of those. And he's one of the most talented. He plays every instrument, and we've got quite a few artists that he does the music and I do the management and image. And we've got three acts: one male singer, two girls, one a young Adele, she's 21, sings and looks a little bit like Adele, and one Katie Rayban, who's a little bit like Amy Winehouse, very jazzy. But the common denominator with all three of them, they're all real singers. There's a difference between being a singer and somebody who can sing. These are all really talented musicians. Like the new girl we've just started to work with, um, she's done 5 years at music college, and they're the type of people I like to work with, real musicians, not the wannabes that are on Instagram who are just fluffing about. I really don't know what they're playing at, but these are real musical artists that are a pleasure to work with. Whether anything will happen with anything, well, it's the state of the industry. But it's not like a hobby, but it is in a way. I don't need that any revenue from. I do it because I love working with young, talented musicians.
Yep. And actually, that is a good one because there's a good question here I got. Um, Hi, Alan. If you had anybody come to you to manage them, and they said they would like to go on the X Factor, would you send them?
The X Factor is the worst thing. I wouldn't. It's no. And the answer, the last act that we had, we managed Sada Vidu, who I did actually get on the X Factor because I knew Simon and the producer. I knew she wouldn't win because she was too off the wall. All I wanted was media exposure, which we got. She wouldn't have won it because she really wasn't what I call mainstream of what would have happened. So that was in 2017. That was 4 years ago. But now we wouldn't even dream of putting our acts anywhere near any of that. I think it does more harm than good. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. And Philippa wants to know, hi, Alan. Are there any people that you manage today that we all know?
No, the artists we're working with now are all unknowns. I mean, obviously, I suppose, the last big act that I managed that people would know were Mel and Kim. As you know, Mel died at 23,
Yeah,
and
what a
and
shame.
then but that and strange enough, we signed them to because I knew Peter Waterman. We put them with PWL because we knew we would have hits. They did. They had 4 big hits with PWL.
Yeah, and
Um,
they went on done TV as well, didn't they? Mel and Kim.
Yeah, I mean, well, Mel used to work with me in one of my road shows, and then she'd had what they thought was a cyst on her liver. It ended up it was cancer, and they opened her up, and she had it looked like a shark had bitten her. There was an 80 stitch scar, so she had to give up modelling, and that's when we started to work with her on her singing, and then we're in the studio one day. It's a true story, and we were joking because she had an amazing voice, Mel, a very bluesy voice. I've still got about half a dozen tracks I recorded with Mel before we had found out about Kim. But we said to her one day as a joke, "Is there any more at home like you?" And she went, "Yeah, I've got a sister, and I," because she spoke like Cockney like that. She was from Hackney, and that's how we met Kim, who was 10 years older than Mel, and we put them together. But Mel had the better voice. Kim was a good singer. Mel was an exceptional singer, and I think if the sad thing is, people know she died at 23, but if she hadn't have died, she would have gone on to be a force in soul and blues. And some of the recordings I've got, just her singing alone, fabulous voice.
Yeah, brilliant. Very good. They were good. They were really good. I
There's nothing else really like them, even now. Their whole image and everything about them was so good. I mean, they looked $1 million, and because they came from Hackney, I mean, if I mean, obviously, I knew Mel really well, but I mean, right, cool, blimey, you wouldn't put her voice with the way she looks. She was right Cockney,
mm,
and that was maybe part of her charm. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Um, we got who we got? Oh, Lisa. Hi, Alan. My name's called Lisa. I sing around the pubs and the clubs. Can I have some advice, please? I love to turn professional. I don't like going on all these shows and everything. I was asked to go on The Voice the other day and plus X Factor, but I didn't bother. I just don't want to go down that route. Can you give me some other advice?
All I can say about the voice, if you wanted to show your voice to a big audience, yeah, but name me one artist that's become successful through the voice, because I can't think of one.
No, I can't think of one.
It won't serve any purpose. Um, I mean, that's just for me. I just avoid talent shows. I just avoid. In going back years ago, the only talent show that was out there was Opportunity Knocks. I don't know whether you remember that with Huey
Yeah, I
Green.
remember that. Yeah.
And I managed one the group that won it 7 times. Two girls called Lips, and they won it, and we managed them for quite a few years, and they did really well for me. Really good-looking girls. Obviously now they're both. I don't know what happened to them. They're both retired, but they went all over the world for me, and great-looking girls with great voices. But I think the demise of the industry is very much related to these get rich quick talent shows where the only one that actually gets rich is Simon Cowell, and
Yeah.
he just spits them out the end, and he sucked them dry, and good luck to him, and he's made millions. But I can't take artists like that I wouldn't watch it. I find it almost
Yeah.
an insult to my intelligence to watch.
I think I'll leave the Simon Cowell messages out actually. Or do you want to take them?
Sorry, what was that, Steve?
I've got some Simon Cowell messages here, not from Simon Cowell, but about Simon Cowell. Would you mind answering them?
Sure, yeah.
Right, okay. Graham wants to know, hi, what do you think about Simon Cowell?
Well, you're talking about socially as a nice guy, as a businessman, a very shrewd businessman. But he's single-handedly destroyed the music industry.
Yeah, okay, okay. It's his opinion, guys. We've got to accept it. Oh gosh, what you're getting is you're getting loads of agreements here. Well done. He's a dickhead. Oh, right, okay. Um, One person said he's a dickhead, so there you go. I, um, Steve, would it be possible if you can ask Alan this question here? Um, has he ever met Simon Cowell, and what does he think of him on a personal level? Has they ever worked together? Can you ask him?
And I met Simon originally when he was head of A&R for RCA Records. And I met him again, obviously. He's a very he can be very charming. I mean, you're talking about as an individual, a likable man, I'd say. But Simon Cowell's only really interested in Simon Cowell, and all the acts that have gone through. I mean, the contracts that he gets the artist to sign are criminal. They wouldn't. I mean, so draconian, so unfair, or it's all weighted on Simon Cowell. I don't know how he's got away with it. And you could only get, if you were managing an act and you got them on X Factor, they systematically tried to get rid of the managers. They wanted to own it lock, stock, and barrel. I mean, it's almost how the press haven't picked up. It's criminal what he did, so that he had total control. I mean, technically, it will be deemed to be a complete conflict of interest to be a record company and a manager and agent. But that's it. Their contracts. When I saw the contract they put in front of Sada Badu, and I wrote to Simon and said, if you try and induce Sada to breach your contract, I will sue you. He didn't try it, but he knew I had lawyers behind me, and I would have gone for his jugular.
Mm, yeah. I had somebody come on my show, and they were on the X Factor, and they said I had to give up I was told to get rid of my management team, because Simon Cowell wanted full control. That's what he said,
Yeah.
and it's
I
really
mean, if
bad.
you're happy, if you as an artist just want to be famous, well, certainly Simon Cowell and the whole structure, they can facilitate that. But don't get confused. The only one who's going to make any money out of it is Simon Cowell.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's move on. And hi, Alan. Have you ever met Louis Walsh?
Who?
Louis Walsh. Louis Walsh.
No, never met Louis. No, I didn't meet Louis.
No. Okay, there you go. Can you, Alan? Can you tell me, what do you think about all the gossip going on about these people who are being accused of paedophilia in the press, i.e., Cliff Richard and some other people? Do you think it's totally wrong? Because I do. I am a big Cliff Richard fan, and also Marmalade, of course. But the trouble is, it's wrong when people get accused for something that they have done.
I mean, I met Cliff once. We were with the EMI. We had dinner after Top the Pops. He's one of the most charming, unassuming men. And I would say um, about his sexuality, I don't think is he gay or not. I don't really know, and I don't really care. There's
Yeah,
lots of
yeah,
stories,
yeah.
but would I say Cliff would mess around with children? No,
No.
not at all. There's nothing about that. And strangely enough, when I was working as an agent, we did quite a bit of stuff with Jimmy Savile. Now, we were working for FAB, physically handicapped and able bodied. And I met Jimmy lots of times. And in fairness, I never saw Jimmy do anything that I thought, I'm not sure about that. He was great with children. I mean, he was a
Well, his
great
show was a hit, wasn't it? Jimmy Fix It.
yeah, I mean, he had a great way, very charismatic. He was brilliant at fundraising, and he probably taught me more about charity than any other individual when we were working with Fab. So I don't know how much is true about what is written about him or not. I mean, some of the stories seem so bizarre. He was a strange man, that's for sure. But in all the experience I had with him, and I was with him quite a few times and with his caravan, and I never saw him do anything that I thought, I'm not sure about that. He was brilliant with handicapped children, but then this whole uh, image now of him, it's like I knew Rolf Harris, the same thing. I never saw Rolf do anything that I thought,
Nah, nah.
well, you don't know really. But once the media get their teeth into somebody, I mean, they almost destroyed Cliff, and it was tragic because he really wasn't. There's nothing about him that says he's a paedophile.
Yeah,
Nothing. Um, with Jimmy Savile, I'm not saying he wasn't, but I never saw anything that suggested he was. And you just speak for your own experience, and
yeah. Thank you for that. Thank
who
you.
knows really.
Yeah, and it's not our thing to say, is it? Um, where is it? See, oh, Julie wants to know: have you ever met the Bay City Rollers? Oh, good question.
Yeah, because they were managed by our manager. We did meet them.
What were they like?
Just kids, really. I mean, Tom Payton, who managed them, was obviously gay, and he was having an affair with one of them, and everyone knew all about that. I mean, you're talking musically. Nothing new. It was a great, the classic teeny bopper group, geared for young girls, and in that they were perfect musically. I mean, to anyone out there who's actually got a Bay City Roller album, well, yeah, good luck with that, you know. But it's horses for courses. They had their own market, and they entertained young children. And uh, but was there anything inspirational about the music? Not for me. But that's not a criticism. It's just an observation. But Peter Walsh, our manager, managed them. I mean, in our heyday, you'd think that Peter, Starlight Artists, managed us, Fleetwood Mac, Tremolos, Mac and Katie Kassoon, Billy Ocean, Bay City Rollers. I mean, in the top 20 at one time, I remember in the top 20, he had 10 acts across in the top 20, 10 acts he managed. So Starlight Artists was a massive agency, but I'd say his two the ones that he had the longest relationship with Marmalade and Trems, and we toured extensively with the Trems abroad because we were we were with him from the beginning to the end. So he's dead now. He died about 25 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
A typical, what I call Northern Yorkshireman who, I mean, even I, as a manager, use some of his psychology. When we recorded Obladi, he was in Brazil with the Tremolos, and we got a telegram telling the record company not to release it. No way was it a hit record. And it went straight to number one, which he never lived that one down, you know.
Yeah.
But he was a good manager, and he carried a lot of clout managing so many big acts. So that's how we met the Bay City Rollers.
Right. Okay. Um. Beverly wants to know what was it like to. I just watched some videos on Top of the Pops about you. What was it like to be on Top of the Pops?
Well, it's the highlight of it all, really. I mean, it was paramount. You got, if you wanted your single to go up the charts, you had to get Top of the Pops. I mean, we had a good relationship with the various producers, from Colin Sharman to different. They had a good relationship with their manager, and yeah, it was. You really knew. It was very, very important to do, and it was great because you got to meet. It was a very social atmosphere backstage where I got to meet so many people. Or then, if you weren't going straight to a gig, you go to the green room, which is where the staff drank, and you got to socialize with all the groups that were on there. I mean, you got to meet everyone. Really, it was like being in a very exclusive club. Yeah, and in answer to that question, yeah, it was always the highlight. You got to do Top of the Pops. Fabulous. We loved it.
Okay. Tony wants to know what is the highest audience that you ever played in?
We did a festival in Athens, 100,000 people. That was the biggest festival I've ever done. In fact, the crowd rioted, and to get us out of the arena, they sent in army personnel carriers. Yeah, you could make this up. And all the barriers collapsed, and it's a bit scary when 100,000 people start coming at you. But the army were called in, and we were removed in armored personnel carriers.
Sorry, I think it's funny. Right. Okay. Um. And oh yeah, let's take that. Monica wants to know when your fans when you went to hotels, did you ever get any fans waiting outside for
Oh,
autographs and everything?
oh yeah, all the time. And if they found out where you were staying, then you'd see them in the morning, and then some of them would manage to sneak in and get into your bedrooms and God knows what. There was
Right. Okay.
lots of
Okay. Let's
shenanigans
move on.
going on.
Let's move on. I don't want to know what you lot got on. Gosh, I don't know. Yeah. And what else we got? Josh wants to know. What was it? Oh, right. Okay. Wages. When you first started, what was it like to get your first wage, and what did you do with it?
When I joined Marmalade, they they'd come down from Scotland, and they were an unknown band, and but from their ability to entertain, they were pretty much booked 7 nights a week, and you would be we always worked on a basic salary. I mean, I don't know what we were on when I first joined, probably maybe something like 20 quid a week, but I think the first thing I bought was a Mini. I had a little Mini, and we were working. The break for Marmalade came not when we had hits. That came later, but when we got the residency at the Marquee Club, and then it went into overdrive then because our fees shot up, and we were then getting 150, 200 a night, a lot of money. We started to do the universities because we were known as, I think at one point we were known as the highest paid band on the circuit that hadn't had a hit, but we had CBS Sony behind us, so we knew eventually, the record company were there behind us, and eventually, once we had a hit, the whole momentum of the band changes then, because before you have a hit record, the only you're reliant only on as good as you are doing the show. You haven't got hit records to fall back on. And Marmalade were at their peak musically before we ever had a hit. During the Marquee days, when they'd rehearse 7 days a week, and they were as good as it got. I was just so proud to play with them. They were such a great band. Once the hits come, you sort of, you not rest on your laurels, but the pressure's off, because kids will scream and shout, and your musical ability, the success wasn't predicated on what you did on stage. It was because of the hit records, I guess, to a degree. Now, a lot of bands lose their edge a bit once they've started to have success. And then we slowed down. We started to get picky about what gigs we wanted to do, and then when the group sort of drifted into just focusing on doing studio work, they didn't want to be out on the road 7 days a week. So it's a lot of bands are always at their peak because you're striving to be successful. So you work. I mean, if I look back on the schedules that we did, and the incessant rehearsals, because if you're doing a residency at the Marquee, you can't go back each week and do the same set. You've got to do new numbers, and so. But it was a very exciting time, and it was nothing to do with ego. We knew everyone knew Marmalade would be a success. It wasn't a case of if, it was a case of when. But because you get a momentum, and we had the biggest label, CBS Sony, behind us, and they plowed a lot of money and promotion into us, and we were well known on the circuit. They had a great track record of being, good players and good guys, and so once it's like a snowball, it just picks up momentum.
Good. Claire wants to know, every band gets their highs and their lows. What was the lowest?
Sorry, what was that question, Steve?
Every band, sorry, it's me. I've got a bit of a cold, so sorry. Every band has their high and their lows. What was your low?
What was my no? How do you mean?
Well, they're saying every band has their highs and their lows, right? So what was your lowest? What was your lowest point? Say.
What things we would do and not do?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm just trying to think. I think when you're striving for success, to answer that, for when we were at the Marquee, we wanted to have a hit with one of our own songs. So I See the Rain, which Hendrix loved, and it was a hit abroad but not here, and we wanted to break with our own material, and then CBS were getting impatient, and they came to the Marquee and they offered us Everlasting Love, and we turned it down because we wanted to record our own stuff. And it went straight to number one with The Love Affair, and I remember they came back a few months later and said, do you still want to do it your way, or we've got another hit, we can give it to The Love Affair, or we can give it to you. And we took a view and it was Loving Things, and that was their first big hit. So, in answer to that question, I suppose we mellowed, we changed our view, because what we didn't want is CBS to go cold on us. So we sort of played the game, and then we only went back to recording our own material when we switched labels from CBS to Decca and recorded Reflections.
Yeah.
And the whole direction of the band. Sadly, I would say we were always tagged with Obladi, which wasn't typical of what Marmalade could do, and it was an out and out pop song. It was a hit for anyone. So whereas Reflections very much personifies what Marmalade could do as a band, and I think if we'd have had a hit with our own material earlier, it would have changed the direction of the band.
Great. And this is why. And so what we're going to do now, we're going to stop and we're going to listen to Reflections.
The changing of sunlight to moonlight, reflections of my life. Oh, how they fill my eyes. The beatings of people in trouble, reflections of my life. Oh, how they fill my eyes. All my sorrow, sad tomorrow, take me back to my home. Take me back to my home. I'm changing, arranging, I'm changing, I'm changing everything. Everything around me. The world is a bad place, a bad place, a terrible place to be. But I don't wanna die. All my sorrow, sad tomorrow, take me back to my home. Take me back to my home.
reflections of my life, and I tell you what, Marmalade, brilliant. Love, love this group, and it's not because I got Alan Whitehead on tonight. It's not because of that, but I tell you what lovely songs they did.
You
Alan,
realise that track you played is not the original, don't you?
yes, I did. Yes, yes,
That's not Dean singing. It's not the original group. It's the tribute band that's out there's version of it. It's not
yeah, yeah,
Marmalade. It's pretty close, but it's not the original.
yeah. And this is what I was just about to say. Reflections of my life. And what happened was there a lot of people have made a lot of copies out there, and yes, they wasn't that wasn't the actual copy, and I'm so sorry about that. That was a mistake on our part in the office. Sorry about that. Anyway,
No, it's like I mean, it's not a problem. We've had legal issues with Sandy Newman because he'd re-recorded all the Marmalade stuff, put a picture of the old band on it, and we had to take him to court, and he had to withdraw it all.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not really playing the game, but one of
yeah.
those things.
And from Crossroads to from us to you, we apologise about that. And it was when they picked the song up from YouTube, and we're sorry about that. Anyway, let's move on. I'm sure you're going to sue me hundreds of pounds. Hang on for a second. Can you be quiet, please? Thank you. Sorry about this. When you all right, okay, here we go. Glenn wants to know. In your heyday, when you was a little teeny bopper, who did you used to like dancing to, and what kind of music was it?
Um, the Buddy Holly fan. I was a massive fan of the Everly Brothers and still am. The Shadows, like I was able to years ago, 1970, or just might have been 1974. I was dating Patrina Lorden, who was the ex-wife of Jerry Lorden, who wrote all the hits for the Shadows. And one night said, we're going to dinner, we're meeting in town with a friend. And I said, who? She said, you'll recognize him. And it was Hank Marvin, a nicer man you couldn't hope to meet. And like most people, Hank Marvin probably inspired more guitarists than any other, everyone from Eric Clapton onwards. And I was inspired by Tony Meehan, the drummer from the Shadows. So I'd say the Shadows, Everly Brothers, and Buddy Holly. I love Buddy Holly. But even the Everly Brothers now, there's just nothing as good as those two. Because I've got a younger brother, so I suppose I was a member of their fan club. And I liked Stevie Wonder, who as I've said before, I toured with Stevie and spent so much time talking to him. And again, it's what a privilege to spend time with a living legend. Well, then he was, I don't know whether he was a legend, but he is now. Every time I see him on telly, I think, Christ, he's a living legend. But again, no ego, just talent he was just loved by everyone. And that's the great thing when you meet musicians that you admire, and to find that they're genuinely nice people. There are very few people I've met that have been what I call a disappointment. But most of them, I think, if you're polite, even if they don't know who you are, but if you're polite to them, it might come out later. They realize that you're another musician, maybe by the way the conversation goes. But that's the great thing for me, being in a successful band, is that you get to meet other successful musicians on a one-to-one, because they're not on a pedestal. They're just other guys in bands. And even if you do admire them musically, but you could just enter into what I call a dialogue, because you're on although you might be, I mean, like talking to David Bowie or Mama Cass, who I met with Graham Nash, and all these people, and they want to know about you, and oh, I love this song and love that you did that. And you think when you meet famous musicians that you know them, but they don't know you. What's been amazing is when they suddenly, you realize that they know you, and they know music you've done and who you've worked with.
Yeah,
I find that is it's quite a sort of what I call, it's very complimentary to think
yeah, yeah.
people that you admire as an artist, or think of them as being a star, if you like, and they actually know who you are, because you
And I
don't
think,
you don't think they would know you.
uh,
Well,
I think
I
at the end
think
of the
at the end of the
sorry, I think at the
I
end of
think
the
at the
day,
end of the day,
you are a star in our eyes, and
Oh
I think
well,
you know, and the trouble is, every time we come and say to you, "Can you come on?" You kind of willingly to do it, or if you can't do it, you always say so. We've asked quite a lot of people in the past to come on, and some people are stuck up their own jumpers and everything. But you're a guy who kind of like is straight. You tell it as it is, and you're approachable. Every time. I don't get any problems from you, and you're just you, in you, Alan.
I don't think there's any. I mean, I've been very lucky that to fulfill a dream and travel the world with a bunch of guys. And the Marmalade never saw themselves as stars ever. They were very approachable by anyone and everyone. Maybe, and this has replicated with a lot of people that I've met, that they're very grateful for the opportunity they've had. And when you meet fans, or which I still get loads of people writing to me all the time, they're always amazed that I write back. But I'm always amazed that I've still got fans out there. I mean, most of them I'd have thought have been in the cemetery by now.
No, 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 no. It's you got one of them. Well, you got three of them here, and we love you the bits, and everybody on Christmas loves you too. We get inundated with messages all the time. Right, okay, guys, we've got to go because the news is coming up, and I wish I could keep Alan on here for about 2 or 3 hours. Honestly, he's got wonderful stories and everything. And I am in the middle of trying to arrange something with Alan to come down our way. So what I'll do is I will contact him and do bit and leave him a message. And if you are really, really want to come down and meet Alan, then you can. But all the details will follow this, and it'll be on our website later on. Soon I've spoken to Alan. In the
Yeah,
meantime,
that'll be great, Steve. It's always a pleasure for me to meet people that have got a love for music. I was lucky enough to have been if you like, a successful musician, but maybe a lot of people didn't have that opportunity for whatever reason. So I always find it a great pleasure to meet
yeah.
people that have a common interest, music, really.
Oh yeah, they will do. I think we're gonna. Yeah. So anyway, guys, so that's it. We'll put it all on our website when we've confirmed with Alan, and hopefully that will happen next month. In the meantime, good night. God bless. I've got another one in around about in 10 minutes time. Sorry, 7 minutes. Sorry, and with Philip at Field. But in the meantime, guys, good night. God bless, and see you later on. Bye bye. Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, goodbye to everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Alan.